So 7 or 8 months ago I built this bench with the stone as one of the legs. If you haven't watched that video, I would recommend watching it first so this one makes more sense. I got a few questions so I thought I'd answer them. One of the questions I got was, what did I use to make the stone look wet in the pictures? When I got the stone it was pretty beat up, probably from rolling around in the back of a dump truck on the way to the landscape yard. I started out by cleaning up the dings. Wherever the natural weathered patina was scuffed off, I went over in a random fashion with some trans tint walnut dye mixed with water. I dabbed it on the scuffed areas and tried to feather it into the existing patina. I also used some General Finishes Spice Walnut as well to darken some areas to try to make it look more natural. Then to seal it all in, I used a satin wipe-on poly, but instead of wiping it on, I liberally brushed it on, working it down into all the cracks and crevices in the rock. When it dried, it wasn't shiny. It was a nice matte finish that made the rock look damp, like it had rained an hour ago in the forest and was drying slowly in the shade. But before I did all this work on the final piece, I tested my technique on the piece I had split off earlier from the bottom, just to be sure I liked how it was going to turn out. The next question was, what was in the spray bottle while I was staining the mahogany? It was just plain old water. My initial test pieces were just a tad too dark and a little bit blotchy. So instead of trying to lighten up the stain, I sprayed water over the whole piece and let it soak in a bit. Then I came back and applied the stain. The water did two things. It soaked into the deeper, thirstier part of the wood grain, so the stains would soak in more evenly, and it also diluted the color just ever so slightly to a color I liked. I also applied blue tape to all the places that I was going to apply glue in the final assembly. Glue just doesn't bond well to finish. So when the finish was dry, I just removed the blue tape and I had a nice clean surface to glue to. The next question was more of a statement telling me that I had glossed over all the details for building the bent lamination form for the arch. So to build the form, I started out with a sheet of plywood where I plotted out the leg, bench top, and where I wanted the arch to end. Then I drove a brad nail at the start and end points of the arch. I used a thin piece of wood to bend between the nails until I found an arch shape that I liked. Since the arch is one of the main focal points of the piece, I took my time to get the shape just right and drew several arches before deciding on which one I wanted to go with. Once I had settled on a shape, I took it to the bandsaw and cut it out. Then to ferret the curve and remove all the saw marks, I used a flexible sanding strip to smooth it out by hand and bring it to its final shape. I screwed it down to another piece of plywood so I could route out the corresponding clamping blocks. These need to be perfectly parallel to the main form. This is important so when the pieces are clamped in the form, there is even pressure applied across all the pieces, preventing any gaps in the final glue up. I selected a router bit the same width as what I wanted the final piece to be so it would create the right curvature on the clamping blocks. And then from there I just needed to build up the form to the right thickness. I glued the template pieces onto some more plywood and cut it out at the bandsaw. And then cleaned it up with a pattern bit at the router table. To prevent the glue from sticking to the form, I covered it with clear packing tape. Then I screwed these feet to the form so I'd have something to push the work pieces to line them up during glue up. Then the rest was spreading the glue and getting it clamped in the form. Thank you for making it to the end. If you want to see what I'm working on in my shop for upcoming videos, please give me a follow on Instagram. And of course, like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified when the next video comes out.